me off, that's why I can't text. Now she call me petty, but I swear I can't forget. This ain't a test. Now they saying that I ball like Jerry West. Coming back for what is mine, can't take no less. I said go and take a shot, so I need your best. And stop the threats, don't nobody's enemy. I don't got time, I'm not giving the energy.
What's going on, everyone? It's KingTutsPro. Welcome back to another Final Cut Pro 10 tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to show you 6 new music videos that you haven't seen before yet. And this is actually very easy. All of these effects require no plugins or presets. Also, guys, be sure to check out my Selfie store in the description of this video. I currently have 2 packs available for purchase. So if you guys are wanting to add transitions in a matter of seconds, click this one here, which is going to include 24K drag and drop transitions for Final Cut Pro 10, Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and more. This is also M1 compatible, and no plugins or any special type of installation is required for this. So what you want to do is drag your video that you're going to be using. So about here, I'm going to press Command B to split the clip, and I'm going to go about here, which is where it's going to end. So we have this clip here, and to add the effect, all you got to do is make a copy. So hold Option and drag it upwards to make a copy. And then what you're going to do is you're going to select the clip and go over to the blend mode. So change the blend mode from normal and change it to screen, or you can change it to lighten. I think lighten looks the best. Then what you're going to do is you're going to increase the scale. So before you increase the scale, bring down the opacity and then increase it. So increase this as well. You can lower the opacity. And this will also give you that ghosting effect, but this is a little bit different. So if I push play, it'll look like this, right? But we're going to go over to the effects. We're going to go to distortion, and we're going to add the earthquake effect to this. So when I push play, you're going to notice it's going to start to shake. So we're going to have to increase the amount of this quite a bit. Push play, it'll look like this. And the cool thing is that it has layers. So you can add more layers to this if you want. Cool. So once it's like this, what you can actually do is create a mask on top of this so it doesn't affect his face. So we're just going to go over to the masks here. It should look like this. Click on this and click Add Shape Mask. And you're going to drag this over your subject's face. You're going to click back where we added the mask and hit Invert Masks. So now everything within the circle is going to be unaffected. So we're just going to change the feather, which is this outer ring. And then to change the shape, just use these circle points here. From here, I'm going to add a keyframe. So add a keyframe next to Shape Mask. And then you're going to go frame by frame and just move this to track his face. Cool. Once it's there, you can go back and see your tracking. And if I push play, it should look something like this. Super cool, very different of an effect. You can also add a zoom blur, which looks actually really cool. So you can do this, you can increase the amount, and you can also warp the edges. So you can go, once you've added that, you can actually go over to, I think it's under distortion, and it's under fisheye. So you drag that on top of that. Make sure that the fisheye is above all your effects, and you're just gonna increase this or decrease it. I'm gonna decrease it. So now it'll look something like this. You can also create a glow on top of this by just duplicating this above. And then if you select the middle clip, you can go over to Color Inspector tab, go to Exposure and just bring this up on the highlights at least. And you increase the exposure. And then you can also change the color. So I'm going to change the color of the highlights yellow if you want. So it'll look something like this. Absolutely insane. With that being said, let's move on to the second effect. Alright guys, so the second effect is going to be this super cool boxes on boxes, or in other words, a PIP, video in video effect. This is my take on it. So if I push play, it's going to look something like this. It's a little bit of a twist to just it be, just showing on screen and then disappearing. I think that if we actually animate them and kind of also make a transition out of it, it's very easy to do. Again, no plugins or presets. And if you guys are enjoying today's video so far, if you guys could consider subscribing and turning on the bell notification so you don't miss out on a video like this, that would be much appreciated. Alright, so what you want to do is have your video in the timeline. This video is called 24 Hours Freestyle by SnowThaProduct. Amazing, amazing artist. Check them out. Link in the description as always. So what I want to do is I want to use this as our main clip, and then I also want to use this second scene here, kind of overlap onto the main clip on this one. So I'm going to press Command B to make our first selection, and I want to split it about here. So I'm gonna press Command B. So this is gonna be our first clip. So I'm gonna drag this one over to the left. I want this one to be probably this one. So I'm gonna press at the very beginning of this scene, I'm gonna press Command B, and I'm going to go to just before it ends before it goes to the next scene, we'll press Command B. Let's just pretend that this is our sequence. These are going to be our main clips here, the 3 clips. So the first one I'm going to drag right above our main clip. So I want this to last quite a bit. So maybe about here is okay, maybe less. And what I want to do is once it's about here, I want to have it animate. So we're going to crop this first. So we're going to go over to the transform tool. We're going to hit transform. And then we're going to hit this down arrow and go over to crop. And then you're going to go over to the crop option. Now you can crop it or you can trim it. I like to trim it. I think it'd be easier that way. But first, we're going to bring this down. So go back to transform and go to the corners and just bring this in. Click and drag. And then position this wherever you want. So I'm going to move this to the top left and do something like this. So from here, I think that looks good. And then from there, once you are happy with the placement, just go over to crop. Go to trim. You're just going to click and drag this inwards, trim it down to something like this. Right there looks good. And I'm going to go back to the transform to change the position. So here's good. I'm going to click done. So if I push play, most music videos just have them like this and then have a bunch of other videos just pop up like that. I think we can make it a little bit better by actually animating them. So from here, what I want to do is work with the second clip here. So we're going to click and drag upwards and move it to the left. And I'm going to drag this clip over on the right side as well because I want this to come right after this shot here. So I want this to also last between here and here. And it's still in the bottom of this main clip. So I'm going to select the second clip. I'm going to press Command B where it ends. We're not going to touch this clip. We're only going to touch the beginning part. So now we can go back to transform and just do the same thing. We're going to make this smaller. And I'm going to position this up here. And I also want it to overlap. So I'm going to drag it above our video because I want this video to overlap the one that we cropped out. So something like this. And I'm also going to trim this down because we don't need all this extra space really. So we're just going to trim it down a little bit. So once you're happy with that, you're going to trim this piece now. Make sure that they're matched like this. Now we're going to select this bottom clip here. And we're going to go over to transform, move the playhead at the beginning, click back, and you're going to add a keyframe. So add a keyframe, and you're going to go over to position. Under X, this controls left and right, so just drag this out of the screen first. And then we're going to go a couple of frames in about maybe here. So maybe 4 or 5 frames, and then click and drag this back to where it was or wherever you want it to be. So now you can go back and see what it looks like. So it's coming in a little bit quick for my liking. So I'm going to right click and go to show video animation. And I'm going to extend this out a little bit longer. There we go. That's perfect. And then now this one here, I want this one to come up from the bottom. So I'm going to go over to transform. We're going to add a keyframe at the beginning and we're going to go down to the Y axis. And we're going to click and drag that and move it down so it's out of the frame. And then we're going to go a couple of frames in about here. And we're going to click and drag the Y-axis back up so it's overlaid. And you can see this little red line, which means there's animation going on. So click done. So now if I go back and push play, it should look something like this. You can see that this shot here transitions onto this second shot. So once it's nearing the end, okay, this is why having a longer clip is more ideal because you can have the effects last longer, but this should still be fine. So about here is where I want this to zoom up. So we're going to go over to transform actually, and we're going to add a keyframe and we're going to go to the end and go 1 frame to the left. And then now we're going to go over to the transform settings and under scale all, we're going to type in 100 and press enter. X, we're going to type in 0. Y, we're going to type in 0. You're just going to click on done actually. And you're going to press left to go 1 frame to the left and right to go 1 frame to the right. But we're going to use the left arrow key to go a couple of frames back. So right here, right where it starts to zoom up, we're going to split the clip. So press Command B. Then on the second shot here, the one that's moving, we're going to actually reset the trim. You can do that by going to transform, going to crop, going to trim, and hitting reset. This will reset the aspect ratio or the original settings of that video and click done. This is cool because it creates a really nice way to transition to the full image. So if I go back and push play, it'll look just like this. Alright guys, so this next effect is honestly one of my favorite ones. Now, I don't know how I figured this out in Final Cut Pro 10, but it's actually really easy to do. And this can absolutely spice up your music video. Trust me on that. So let me show you what I mean. And this works best on darker shots. So if you're gonna be working with, if you're gonna be filming outdoors at night or inside and it's kind of dark, but there's still bright areas in your video, then this effect is going to look absolutely amazing. So the original effect is this one actually from Kojey Radical or Outside featuring Amor. If I push play, this here is the original raw video from the original music video, and I wanted to recreate this super sick like a blur halo effect. So I did the same thing in Final Cut Pro 10 without using or having to use any plugins or presets. So this is the before clip, and this is with the effect applied. So let me show you how to do it. Let's jump right into it. All right, so the first thing you want to do is, I'm going to delete the effect actually. So this is the original video here. Okay, nothing's been applied beside it being shot and color graded and color corrected and all that stuff. But if you guys do want to color grade your videos as a last minute kind of cherry on the top to your video look, then consider checking out my Shopify store in the description if you guys want to get 15 custom premium LUTs. But anyways, to do this effect, what you want to do is go over to your clip in the timeline, and we're going to have to duplicate this effect. So hold Option and just drag upwards. So go over to the color tab. We're going to add a correction. We're going to add a color board correction. Now you should have this if you're on the newest version of Final Cut Pro 10, and if you're in the older version of Final Cut Pro, then you should have the color board feature here. So once you have this pulled up, we're going to go over to this box here to bring up the masks. And you're going to go over to Add Color Mask. So this will allow you to select anywhere in the video wherever you have this selected is where you can sample your color from. I'm going to select the brightest area of this image, which is going to be this girl's white tank top. So I'm going to kind of select this. I'll also move the playhead around because we want to also affect their faces. So with the first one applied, you also hold Shift to add another point to the selection. If you think it's grabbing too much, hold Option on your keyboard, and you're going to see a little minus next to the eyedropper tool. And what this will do is it will deselect anything that you're clicking and dragging. So if we select more of the brown in their jackets, then this will remove some of that. So once you're happy with the selection, you can make sure that you actually made a selection by dragging the global over to like red and making sure that it covers the majority of their faces as well as some of their outfits. So pretty much everything that's in the highlights. So once you're there and you made your selection, what you're going to do is you're going to have to go over to the effects. You're going to go over to blur, and you're going to go over to Gaussian blur. You can add Gaussian blur, or you can add anything else if you want. But I found this to be the best. So I'm going to drag Gaussian blur onto this clip here. Now you're going to notice it's going to blur the whole image, which is supposed to happen, but we're going to change the blend mode. So you go over to the inspector tab and go down to where it says compositing, and next to blend mode, you're just going to change that from normal. You can change that to add, or you can change it to lighten, or you can change it to screen, or you can do color dodge or linear dodge. I think add is the best one for this video, and you can also decrease or increase the opacity. We're going to increase the opacity all the way to 100%. And now you can kind of start previewing what's happening in your video. So now you're getting this super cool, soft, kind of glowing halo around all of the highlights, at least where you made your selection with the color mask. So this looks great, but we can make it better. So we're going to go back to the color tab here. So just click on this triangle, and you're going to go over to the exposure tab. Now you can bring this up all the way if you want to, or you can adjust the globals, which will control the shadows, midtones, and highlights, or you can just control the highlights and bring them up a lot. So that looks good. Now I'm going to go back though, and we're going to go over to the Gaussian. And if you increase the amount, it will make it a lot softer. And if you bring it inwards, it just makes it pretty much go away because we're decreasing the amount. So we're going to increase this a little bit. So now we're going to go back to color, and I'm going to change the global of this to maybe just the highlights actually, to a kind of a blue, because there's a little bit of blue in it. Yeah, that's pretty close. So that looks pretty good. You can see a lot more blues in there by moving the highlights. This is before and then after. So now if we go back and push play, this is the after, right, with the color of course, but I mean, just look at the difference. I mean, this looks this looks nuts. So this is like something out of like an alien movie or something, but the Gaussian blur is really what makes it. You can also bring down the amount if you want more of a dramatic effect like this, right? Or you can increase it to soften up those edges. Whatever you think looks the best. Alright guys, so this next effect is going to be this super cool kind of a falling freeze frame with a glitch effect added on top of it to really make it kind of complete the whole look. So if I show you again the effect, I'm going to go push play. It's going to look something like this, very simple and easy to do. At least for this particular scene, I think to make it more interesting, instead of it making the video just be normal, which would look like this, we added something that can make it more fun and enjoyable. So to do this effect, of course, you want to have a video that is relatively still. So if your subject is like this would work perfect. You won't have to do that many keyframing. What you want to do first is have your video in the timeline, which I already have. So there's going to be our working clip here. So we're going to go over to the effects. We're going to go down to masks, and I'm going to select the draw mask. So before you add this onto this clip here, we're going to make a copies, hold Option and drag upwards, and then add the draw mask onto the new clip here. So once you've added that, you're going to go over to the draw mask, make sure it's selected, and you want to just make a nice selection of the chair here. So I'm going to make a selection. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially if there's not a lot of movement going on in this shot. So once you finish off your selection, you can double check by disabling the bottom clip, and it should just be the main selection that you just made. So what the feather does, it pretty much softens the edge. And I'm going to re-enable the clip, and I'm going to select this one and just move it to the left. It's going to kind of go back into place. You can move it all the way, and then just trim what you want to have. So from here, I'm going to go over to the transform, and I'm going to add a keyframe, and we're going to start this off at the beginning for the y-axis because I want this coming up from the top all the way down to the bottom. So once we add our keyframe here, and we have the whatever we masked out of the frame, we're going to go a couple of frames in. Actually, might as well go all the way and go one frame to the left and just type in 0 for Y and press enter, or X if you're doing it left and right, and click done. So now if I push play, it'll come in just like this. Now, we all know how to do that, right? But we can make it a lot more interesting. And one, we can clean up the edges a bit better. So we can hide that actually by adding a blur. So just go over to effects, go to blur, and add a directional blur. And what we're going to do is go to where you can see the full image, and then you're just going to increase this quite a bit. So something like this. So once we're happy with that, we're going to go back to before it ends, which is about one frame to the end of this clip here. We're going to add a keyframe here, and then go right where it ends, which is here, and bring the amount all the way down to 0. If you guys check out my link in the description is where you can find all of these amazing packs. No plugins or presets. These are just simple drag and drop clips. So you just drag it above wherever you want the transition to begin. And then you, of course, for this one, you'd actually have to change the blend mode to add or lighten. I'm going to do lighten for now. And when you go back and push play, it can look something kind of close to this. Now, this is just one of 20 of the transitions from my transitions pack on my Selfie store. So if I press Command I, there's going to be the main folder here, and you can cycle through the transitions that you want. So they're all different for a particular scene. So it's more of a variety pack. All right, guys, so this next effect is an absolutely crazy one. So if I push play, we're going to be creating something that looks like this from the original video, which looks like this. So you can see you can completely change the look and feel of a music video just by adding this really cool effect with grain applied as well. So this is the original, and then this is with the effects that I'm going to show you how to do. So, all right, so first things first, have your video in the timeline, which I've already added, and I have this video here that I want to add, and I also want to add it to this clip here. So the original video is coming from Chlöe. It's called Have Mercy, link in the description, along with the other music videos. So with that being said, what you want to do first is go over to the effects. So we're going to go over to basics, and we're going to go over to threshold. So we're going to drag that onto our first clip here. And what threshold will do is it will pretty much bring in the lightest and darkest areas of your video in terms of lighting and kind of focus on that except the midtone, so you have a very, very high contrast look and feel. So if you go on over to the threshold under effects, you should have light color here. So you can, click on this little triangle and it will show you red, green, and blue, which you can further enhance to get that correct color. Now, if you go over to light color and you click on this box here, you can actually change the color for the lightest areas. In this case, whatever is the brightest. So in this case, it's her face, her hair, wherever all the highlights are landing on. So you can change that and actually make it a color if you want. You can do like yellow or orange. And then for the dark color, which will focus on the shadows, right now it's completely black. But as soon as you increase the brightness or luma here, you're going to notice that it starts to bring up that duotone color, if that makes sense. So you can really spice this up to get a particular look that you're going for. So you can do something like this. And then smoothness is how soft that's going to be between those two shifts in between light and dark. Intensity is how strong of an effect. So we're going to increase this quite a bit. So you can see that. So now you have this really cool duotone kind of effect going on. So it only affects these two colors. So orange will only affect the light areas and the purple will affect only the dark areas. Now for light, what we're going to do is we're going to move this to white, or you can just go over here and select the white. And then here's where the magic happens. You go over to dark color, you go over to the color wheel, and you just make this black. You can make it full black, or you can, make it a little bit of a soft black. So if I push play, it'll look like this. Super cool. So we go from this to this. Now that you have that though, we got to add that fake film grain. So you're gonna go over to the effects and you're gonna go to the stylize, and you can go over to add noise, or you can add aged film. So this looks super cool. If you push play, you can do this really cool fake TV effect. So there's a before and after, but I'm going to just add noise. I want this to be a little bit more on a subtle, I kind of want this to be more of a subtle effect. So once we add the add noise, you can make the noise monochromatic. So black and gray or black and white. Blend mode, we're going to change that to lighten, or you can do screen. I'm going to do screen actually. The type, you're going to notice if I increase the amount so you guys can see it, it's going to look something like this. I do not want TV static. I want this to be film grain. So we're going to add Gaussian noise. So now it's going to look like this. The strength is really strong, so I'm going to bring this down first and then bring down the opacity so it's not too strong. You don't have to do this all over again if you want to get the same look. All you got to do is press Command C on the clip that you added the effect to, and then go to another clip where you want to add the same effect, and just select the clip, press Shift Command V at the same time, and then it's going to allow you to paste whatever you have from the original clip. You can also uncheck them if you don't want that effect. So we want threshold and we want add noise, and we're going to keep everything the same and click paste, and there you go. Now it pasted all of the same effects to this next scene, and look how insane that looks. That looks way better in my opinion. So you have before and then you have an after, so it really changes the look of this video dramatically. Alright guys, so this last effect is going to be the shutter camera or low shutter camera effect. So this one's really cool. So if I push play, we're going to be creating something like this that mimics a low shutter effect. Of course, it's never going to be perfect. It's not going to be like the real thing, but you can get it very close to in Final Cut Pro 10 without using presets or plugins, which is really, really great about this effect. And I haven't showed this effect ever yet on this channel, so this is kind of a new one. All of these effects are should be new. So if you guys so far enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button. Alright guys, so this is the original video here. If I push play, it looks like this. What you want to do is first trim it to where you want the effect to last, so about here. Bring up the retiming option, so press Command R on the video that you want to shrink, or I should say slow down. And then you're going to go to the end of this clip here, and you're going to click and extend this out so a yellow or orange bar kind of appears. And we're going to slow this down quite a bit. So we're going to slow this down to maybe even 20% of its original speed. 26, let's see how that looks like. So this is what you want to happen here. You want it to be very, very slow, and this is a 30 frame timeline, by the way, so you guys get an idea. So if you have a 60 FPS, you're gonna have to slow this down even more because there's more frames to work with. But if you have shorter frames, say you filmed in 24 FPS, you're gonna have to probably not even do 26. You might even want to do like 40 or 50% of the speed, because there's fewer frames. But for this particular video here, we're going to leave it like this. So you want it to be very, very stuttery, which is the effect that we want. So once we're here, we're going to zoom out and press Command R to get rid of that bar at the top, and then we're going to make cuts. So this is why when we extend it, it does make the clip longer, but you want to have a lot of footage to work with also. So once we're here, we're going to make our first cut there. Command B, about here, maybe here, here, and here, and here. And I think that looks good. So now you can delete every other video and have it be a lot quicker, as you can see. So this one's perfect, actually. You might want to trim this one down a little more to match the other clips. But yeah, that actually looks perfect. So once we're happy with the result here, this clip here, we're going to have to leave, because this is going to be our following shot, right? The normal speed clip here. And we're going to go over to the effects. We're going to go down to trails. It should look like this. So we're going to drag that onto this here. We're going to apply first the effects all on the first one, and we can just paste them on the rest of the clips. So we're going to select the first clip here, and the duration is how long it will take to move, as you can see. So if we bring it in to 0.12, it's going to move a lot quicker. So we're going to extend this out quite a bit, and then echoes is how many layers there is going to be. So if I increase this quite a bit, you're going to see there's a lot of layers happening here. So that looks good there, and then I'm going to press Command C, and I'm going to select the other videos, which is these three, and press Shift Command V, click Enter to paste, and then now if I push play, it should look just like this. So we're going to go down to Nostalgia, and we're going to add the security effect. So we're going to drag that onto our first clip here, and now you're going to see that this is a before and after. So you have all these settings here. You can increase the saturation if you want the color back. I'm going to leave it black and white. You can increase the contrast or bring it down. By the way, this is all built into Final Cut Pro 10, so this is not an add-on, but yeah, you can increase the contrast, you can increase the scan lines, you can degrade the footage, you can add vignetting, and you can also make the time either removing it, making it short, or making this long. So just make sure to delete all of the prior effects that we applied to these three clips. Once you're ready and happy with all the effects on the first clip, just press Command C, select your other clips that you want to add the effect to, and press Shift Command V and click paste, and that's all you got to do now. So it looks just like this, super cool and very unique, something a little bit different than my other effects in the past. So if you guys enjoyed these new kind of unused or maybe underrated effects for music videos, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll catch you on my next video. You don't got way too close. I've been up at the top now, so they all wait for the landslide. I seen too many people that switched up whose man's high.